Daily Mail has an article about the New York eviction moratorium. I think it's scheduled to end, and there's predictably there are protests. Well, I mean, living in Los Angeles and dealing with these tenant right organizations, you already know exactly what they're going to say. We're exactly like it's the moratorium is never enough because they believe they should have free housing no matter what. So the protesters, advocates, oh yeah, it need to be extended to July. Well, July comes. Oh, it needs to be extended to September. They keep on and on and on and on and on. It's never enough because at the end of the day, they believe in socialized housing, or they believe that landlords are rich people, and paying rent should be optional. And if you could, like, if you was to speak one of those advocates, it will go like this. Yeah, you want to pay rent? Oh, you have the money, you have a job, everything's going great in your life, everything's perfect. Oh yeah, sure. Well, we'll pay the rent. Oh no, I lost my job, or the money's kind of tight, or I had to go to a concert, this and that. And it's like, well, I should get the landlord's richer than me, so we should get. I don't. If I feel like I don't have the money, I just don't have the money. I can't be evicted for not paying rent. And sometimes it's weird. It's like I don't. This is probably not a majority of people. It's a small amount of advocates, but I don't know. Their ideas are spreading, and I'm at a loss for words. I don't know if I'm like living on the same planet as these people. I mean, where I don't believe in this. The moratorium was the actual moratorium itself was bullshit. If they looked at the numbers, this wasn't like the bubonic plague. It was up to the CDC or whoever did the moratorium. They should have had proof that if somebody was going to be evicted, then they would here are the statistics. If somebody here everybody has to be on lockdown, and if they're evicted, well, here there's 35 or 40% chance they're going to get COVID. Oh, okay. And it's like at the end of the day, they knew the numbers. They knew that COVID, even before the vaccine, they knew that 99.99999% of people survived it. So if anything, wouldn't they have just an eviction moratorium for people 65 and up, hypothetically? If somebody's 20, why can't you be evicted? What about if there's a flu going around? You can't be evicted because there's a flu? Or what about, can you be evicted if there's a chance for you to get hit by a car? That's a small chance. That's a bad side effect. Or maybe you can hurt your back moving the furniture from one unit to another. That's a risk. So we can't be evicted. It's so ridiculous. And these clowns shouldn't even been listened to, but unfortunately, politicians are bending over backwards because they have to cater to these the lowest IQ voters. So, and this is what happens too. Like any kind of welfare that gets given, it's impossible to take back. Well, it's almost impossible. I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised for two reasons. One reason that eviction moratoriums actually ended in some states. Surprised because I thought it'd be, once you have that would be politically untenable. But they ended, and here's another surprise. There was not a tsunami of evictions. Because, hey, if the landlord and tenant, they just worked something out as regular citizens do. And if the tenant is respectful and cooperating and wants the best for the landlord and themselves, and if there was like some kind of housing program, they applied for it and got the landlord some kind of compensation, and they were looking for a job. This is the greatest like job market for employees in probably the last 100 years. There's almost no unemployment, like for help signs everywhere. On top of that, you get all the stimulus checks from just free money flooding everywhere. But yeah, it's if you give these people an inch, they'll take a mile. Looks like housing court has 200,000 pending cases that began Tuesday. New York let eviction and foreclosure moratorium expire on Saturday. Those in the city will have to now apply for eviction protection or rent relief. Tenants' right advocates rallied on the steps of New York Public Library demanding another extension, just one more, to the eviction moratorium until the end of June. Oh yeah, and then when June rolled around, it wouldn't. That would have been the last one. They would not be protesting. Some protesters were arrested at Saturday's event, but the vast majority remained peaceful. Housing courts will consider cases filed by tenants by the Legal Aid Society starting on Tuesday. So protests took the street in the Big Apple. The ban on housing eviction set to expire Saturday. Look at these people. We want fair housing. Well, it is fair. If you moved into an apartment and you agreed to pay the rent, that is fair housing. How is it not fair? If I buy a sandwich from Subway for $5, and they sell it to me, what's not fair about it? How is this any different than any other business transaction? Housing is a human right. So, if housing is a human right for you just for the mere fact of existing, then should you be able to do whatever you want? Hey, how much housing have you provided? Every single one of those people that's holding a sign that's housing is a human right should be forced to provide 2 or 3 units of housing for free. Because hey, housing is a human right. You need to share a burden. Here, there's some disabled veteran. Here's a couple senior citizens. Provide them the free housing. Why is it housing is a human right for somebody else to provide, but not them? Some people getting arrested here. They'll get a slap on the wrist. They should be. Could you imagine if they were treated like January 6th protesters, rioters, insurrectionists? They were put in solitary confinement and then get a 2-year sentence. The critical economic support was put in place at the start of the pandemic. Why is it critical? Ending this sets the stage for possible rush by landlords to try to oust low-income renters. Oh yeah, I think it's exacerbated in New York because a lot of those units are under rent control, and then a lot of people are actually not even paying fair market value. They're probably paying half or a quarter what they should be paying. And if they wanted to, if these tenants were smart, they would actually keep paying the rent. But I guess people are not disciplined enough, and so they just didn't pay the rent, and now they're going to lose their rent control apartment, which there shouldn't be any rent control in the first place. New York instituted eviction moratorium March 2020. You couldn't have saved any kind of money since 2020? When it was first initiated, New York was the epicenter of COVID-19 crisis in the United States. But are you guys are these people vaccine deniers? You're denying the vaccines work? Then just get a vaccine. How is this a crisis anymore? Look at these guys. If you like evictions and want more, nobody likes eviction. But you got to pay the rent, right? Tenants' lives matter. Yes, they do. So the landlords' lives matter. State and city officials expressed concern earlier this week about the impact of ending moratorium, estimating that 500,000 New Yorkers need housing aid at the time when the fast-spreading Omicron variant continued to upend social and economic life. Yes, it's fast-spreading, but not deadly. Very, very mild, very light. It's unacceptable to start evictions proceeding against 250,000 people in the state of New York when it's winter. There's a pandemic still going on. That's the trademark slogan of the leftism. There's an emergency. We got to do measures X, Y, and Z. Just unacceptable, said protest organizer Sarah Lauzzi. You cannot allow moratorium lapse in the middle of the winter during COVID-19 surge. Oh no! Now instead of COVID, it's going to be cold, and then we'll have a homeless epidemic. Then we'll have a racism epidemic. You can't evict people. There's racism. Man, the problem is it's like Mensch's Moldbug or Curtis Yarvin. It's like the reason these people should not be listened to, just completely ignored, and then they would just disappear. Their ridiculous demands would disappear. The only issue is the government is leaking power, meaning it's buckling to their demands. And you're going to get more and more of these protests for free shit. Thousands of women and children of color in New York are going to get evicted by their landlords and are going to wind up on the streets, are going to wind up in our shelter system. That's just not possibly right. While many landlords may move immediately to evict tenants, Governor Kathy Hochul said the renters could effectively avoid eviction by applying for a rent relief program, even though the program has been depleted. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be another stalling tactic too. They're going to, you're going to be in the middle of eviction because they haven't been paying for 2 years. Oh, well, look, we applied for rent relief. Oh, this program's been depleted. Well, it's waiting for new funds. These people should stay for another 2 years rent-free. I mean, the government would never allow this. I owed money to the IRS one time. Fees, collection calls. I mean, all sorts of. They published they basically doxed me. Published my number that I owe my info that I owe the IRS money, and I got berated with like these vulture lawyers trying to make a buck and trying to capitalize on my tax situation. That's if you owe the government, a couple $100. These landlords are owed tens of thousands of dollars. But then, well, but now you know what I mean. They don't have to pay. It's just like, could you be fair across the board? Could you treat these people like as if they owe the money to IRS? The rental properties in Manhattan and Brooklyn are, in particular, astronomical. One of the downsides of daily life and cultural capital of the United States. Well, nobody deserves or nobody gets to live in the most expensive part of America or the world. On Thursday, Adams joined Hochul in calling for federal government to provide an infusion of funds for the program, arguing the United States' most populous city has not received fair share of its federal rent relief. Landlords submitted 81,000 evictions filings in New York City since March 15, 2020. Princeton University Eviction Lab, which has compiled data on 31 cities. It's unclear how many of those cases would now move forward and how many new cases would emerge. Sometimes the comments are pretty disappointing on Daily Mail, but I think this time they're on the money. About time, start paying your rent with all that stimulus money. Why should the landlords suffer while the renters get off scot-free? You can't pay your rent in 2 years. Time to leave. Amen. Landlords have to pay more mortgages. What about their rights? Another common sense comment. We just have known it could not go on forever. What are they doing with all the extra funds not paying rent? I'm not sure either, since I saw so many stealing TVs and sneakers on the news. Nothing. Venezuela 2.0.